Oh, no.
All right, let's start off by just all members of attendance, just say your name and present, might be my.
Michael Gloden, present.
Matt Duff, present.
Dave Evans, present.
Josh Stewart, present.
Kelly Honecker.
Jeff Selzer, present.
Present.
It is. It's crazy. It's close to Christmas like this.
This is the first time in a long time I think we've had it, which is great.
We're all looking for present.
All right, let's start with public comment. We'll start on Pam's. Pam, would you like to start with it for us?
Sure.
Come on up, state your name.
Let me just say.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'll get that for you. Go down here. You know where you normally go.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry about that. I took that chair. That was my mistake.
There you go.
Thank you. I'm Pam Chadbourne. I live a block or two from here, and I wanted to talk about a couple of things. One is transportation master plan update and agenda planning. We need a zoning update. The comprehensive plan is overdue for the 5-year update. And it never was a good comprehensive plan in the first place. It doesn't meet the minimum requirements or products for a comprehensive plan because it should have a prediction of likely outcomes and impacts of build out of zoning over time. You should have 3 assumption scenarios, a low, a medium, and a high. And at least 2 of the impacts should be the impact on transportation and the impact on the city finances, revenues, and expenses, including the expenses for traffic infrastructure or all of transportation infrastructure. Those are fundamental functions of the city. They aren't in the current comprehensive plan. They aren't there in the TMP. And so they've got to be. Any real urban planner or comprehensive design planner, city planner, would require these things in the comprehensive plan and flowing into the transport master plan. You deserve them. We all deserve them. We all live in Littleton. We should have these kind of predictions as outcomes and impacts of the plan. They can be predicted. We're not the only city in the world. Cities have existed for a long, long time, and there's a ton of data, and there's people who study this. We need that in this update. And then you can use that to make your decisions. Just imagine, I'm thinking of all the hours I've heard discussion, how far that would be advanced if you had these predictions of outcomes and impacts. Anyways, for the Littleton Boulevard sub-area plan, it needs that too, and it would benefit from it. Right now, there's stakeholders and propagandists in the process. What we need is, again, this kind of basis of city planning data and likely outcomes and impacts. I'd like you also to just keep in mind, insist on historical preservation, keep Littleton Boulevard unique in Littleton. In the mid-century modern design of traffic means that the corridor would kind of remain vehicular, cars and add buses. And then consider powers, and you folks are the ones who actually came up with this. Have powers be the parallel pedestrian and bicycle priority avenue. And then imagine the commercial growth that you could have by, the small connector streets, having small business and all of that. I think it's a unique and wonderful opportunity for Littleton. It only increases in value as you keep historic areas. And so, am I out of time? There you are.
Wow, that's great.
Hi, I'm Connie Cantrell, District 2. I was a little disappointed last month about the bus, the shuttle bus. And I know that everyone that sits around here, has positive feelings towards it. We've had a couple people, or we had one woman who actually has done both of the VIA and Omnibus who could help. But it really came down to money. Well, in my mailbox, I got a from VIA, they want a donation. Why don't we start collecting the money? We can't do this shuttle right now. why don't we start collecting the money so that when we are able to get it going, we are set up with the finances. Also, the shuttle bus could also be part of that, the school busing. Also, if it drove by schools on its route, you could have kids pick it up at these places that they were talking about, drop-offs and whatever. Just again, shuttle bus is really, really important, and you probably only have to have this shuttle bus until the baby boomers are gone. So that's just another 10 years. And we'll all be dead and you won't have to worry about us, okay?
Hi there, I'm Robin Bernstein. I live at Littleton Crossing, and I don't have a car. I haven't had one for 25 years. And so I ran across these articles on e-bikes, and they're kind of dangerous because, you know, when they swoop up behind you or, anyway. It says, when my wife and I walk around the city, we often come in close proximity with e-bikes, both electric and traditional. Have a number of near collisions with them. It's bad when they're following you, riding towards you, but it's terrifying when they swoop up behind. So anyway, both traffic cops and regular police have told me that they're not instructed to do anything about biking on the sidewalk. And another problem is the road design. So this is from New York. This one, popularity of e-bikes has different implications in rural areas than in urban. In the US public land, e-bikes now encroach on narrow trails used before by pedestrians or horses. Land managers are on the e-bike lobby and are allowing e-bikes wherever traditional bikes are allowed. They're heavier and they're faster, and they're a greater disturbance to wild animals, people, and other bicyclists. So anyway, Mike, that's from California. And Mike Johnson says, we want this to be a city where it's safe and easy to get around by bike or foot. You know, good luck. It says another article, there are no accidents, which argues that the deaths we often label accidental can be reframed as events which result from policy choices. Traffic deaths. US roads are designed in a way that encourage unsafe driving. So that's not an unpredictable thing, but a preventable decision made by, you know, the people that don't walk or they don't know what a pedestrian goes through. And also the animals are going through this too. They're unable to cross the wildlife crossing because they may be killed by the car. Thank you.
All right. Hi, I'm Justin Ryder. I live at Bradbury and Gallup Lane. See a few familiar faces here. My first time here, so I was just planning to spectate, but I'll speak a little bit about. I sent an email to Shane earlier this week, and I had thought about that intersection right there. It feeds into the trail right there, the high school. Runyon Elementary's there. It's a common drop-off point, unofficial drop-off point. My neighbors, myself, are pretty concerned about that intersection. And none of us are traffic experts, but we just wanted to continue to raise awareness about concerns about that intersection. A lot of young drivers there, a lot of pedestrians, a lot of biking. It's a pretty busy place. So in the past, I've gone to the city council and have talked about the issue. My neighbors, I went door to door and talked to neighbors about different proposals. Actually, probably a year and a half ago, collected signatures for changing that pattern of some sort. The problem is it's a blind corner right there. And we get a lot of traffic going down Gallup, and we'll cut that corner a little short. We don't have a sidewalk on Bradbury Lane. It's an older road. So we just had some issues there. I feel like some close calls, and I just don't want it to be an accident waiting to happen. So my email to Shane recently was, I had a day off and I loaded up ChatGPT and I asked it to change my road into something safer. It suggested a one-way street with using that space since it is a narrower, older road. To use that space if it was made a 1-lane road, for like a mixed use pathway. I can't come up with a better idea myself, so, I sent Shane that email and just wanted to raise awareness about that and keep thinking about it. So, thanks for having us.
Would you like to?
I joined late, I didn't know from the.
We'll let it finish that.
Hello. I'm Alex. I live in District 3, right near Euclid Middle School in Sherman Park. I really like the construction that happened recently to fix the bridge that goes on Prince Street into downtown Littleton. And with one of the lanes blocked off, it seemed like a really nice opportunity potentially to have a more protected like bike lane or shared use path between the intersection with Lake on the south side, which also connects to I believe that's Lee Gulch Trail or the Littleton Community Trail, and then extend into either potentially all the way up to Main Street or up here, but just have a more protected space on that section of road. I know there's been some pilot programs for various bike facilities and shared use paths and stuff elsewhere around the city, and that seemed like a really nice small stretch of road that would I know I would use it a lot. My wife, who works downtown at NT, would use it a lot with her bike to get to and from work. As it is, we kind of struggle to find a good way to get from our house in that general area of Littleton into the downtown area on our bikes without, having to really huff it up the hill while cars are blowing past us. But I thought the construction there showed a really nice opportunity where I know there is a turn lane going north on Prince, turn on Church, but it seemed like that worked pretty well with the construction space they had. And then the rest of the road is really nice and wide all the way into downtown Littleton. It just is entirely unprotected for bikes. Considering that's that corridor, so to speak. Thanks.
Thank you. So that is it for the public. So we have a pretty full agenda tonight, so I'm gonna try to push us through. I think what I'm going to ask of the board is that we try to hold the questions towards the end of presentations, like them. Hopefully they'll answer your question before they're done. The first thing we have we're conversation around funding, and so just to set the stage here, I think one of the priority items we thought would be addressed in the update, the idea of funding, the creative funding, but just funding in general, how we fund project, a lot of things, make this city a lot better. We require a lot of money. So we're hoping to talk a little bit about how we fund things today. And then importantly, what options do we think are out there? And then there's sort of a stretch of creative ideas. What else might we be thinking about or trying to pursue to fund some of the projects? It's sort of a nice little it's our placeholder, which is sidewalks, different sidewalks in the rest of the city. They left.
Well, the chair and I, hi, I'm Brent Soderlund, Director of Public Works. The chair and I spoke before the meeting, and I'm not going to go through the presentation I included in the packet because you guys are looking for more of a budget education. So Lori has some better material than I do to talk about the budget. So we'll flip to Lori, but I will add in, I guess, my knowledge on what projects are going on. So
Kind of color commentary.
yes, color commentary. Yes.
Gone mad to the pet center.
To my presentation.
Thank you. That one, Brent.
Really good.
Best presentation we've had.
So I'm Lori Matta. I'm the city's director of finance, for any of you that don't know me. I'll go, because of a conversation that we had just before, I'll probably skip through some of this as well. And then try and get more into the project that we're currently funding. But I did want to, slide. So these are kind of our funding options. These are our, tools in the toolbox, basically, that the city has. You know, your general obligation bonds, which require voter approval in Colorado in order to issue those, and they're backed by the full faith and credit of the state to raise taxes to pay for them. Then there's revenue bonds, and those are typically more used for utilities. And they're backed by the revenues that are charged for the service. That's how those get paid for. There's also state revolving fund loans, which are a very cost-effective way, which I talked to council last night about those. Those are for water, wastewater, stormwater projects, which I know like we're using quite a bit of those for a lot of Mr. Sutherland's projects too. Then there's certificates of participation, which those are unique to Colorado. They're used often, they don't require the public's approval, no vote is necessary on those. Basically, what they are is any facility that's going to be improved or any kind of improvement to city stuff can be, it's basically a lease. You're guaranteeing the debt by the project that you're creating. So if we built this building, whatever the value is, that's what we're putting up basically collateral for those COPs, and we just pay them back, and there's no taxes associated with that one. Then there's budgeted appropriations, and that's where we just fund within a year. We appropriate some funds like to pay for sidewalk, put that in our budget. And then there's the Capital Improvement Sales Tax Fund that council changed the name of last night. So that's where in 2021, the voters approved a 0.75% sales tax increase to pay for capital improvement. So that's like, and those funds can be used for what I call pay-as-you-go projects. So we have the money, we pay for the project, or we can use it to pay some of the debt service payments as well. So we could issue COPs and use it to pay the COP back. And that fund is bringing in between 10 and $12 million a year. So it's a significant impact, and we can leverage those funds to borrow more money in order to do more projects. So that skipped through probably about 6 slides. Yeah. Oh, I did want to say with our debts, there's 2 things. Our general obligation bonds by our charter is limited to 3 7/10 of the total assessed value of all the property within the city limits. So that means even with voter approval at 3 7/10, we can only issue $48 million of GO bonds, general obligation bonds. The utility bonds are limited to 5% of the assessed value.
How many, do we have any GO left right now?
Right now, the city actually has 0. We just made the last payment, I think it was July, on a.
It was a sanitary sewer project.
I knew it was something for you. We can skip through. Okay, so here, capital projects. So, and I have a few handouts if people want, you can also pull up our budget document, and you can find a few of the pages that are in the budget. I only brought a couple, I wasn't sure how many people we had here.
Thank you.
But it's in our budget as well, so you can see the details on our capital projects. That'll show you, so we have for 2026, we have $75.5 million of planned funded capital projects from different sources and $8.9 million unfunded. And you can see that detail on what I handed you out. Let's see. All the projects start on page 114. And then unfunded projects are on the very last page, page 120. So, and those show your different funding sources. They are funded from multiple avenues. We have impact fees. They can pay for, projects that are due to growth. We use impact fees. We have multiple sources of impact fees. We have, facility impact fees, transportation impact fees, IT, police impact fees, and multimodal impact fees. Then the 3A Capital Projects Fund, that's the new capital improvement sales tax fund that we changed the name of. We plan on issuing, you'll see tentative debt funding on that list as well, $30.5 million. That is what we're hoping to be able to issue COPs for in that sometime in 2026 to pay for the town hall improvements, the Main Street downtown redevelopment area, and the service center.
Right.
So those are some big projects coming. We also plan on some budget grant funds as well. We have about 13.6 million in grant funds. We have open space money that comes to us that we can use. The HUTF funds, I mean, we have a lot of sources, which you can see there. I mean, there's a lot of different sources that we can use for funding, and we use our restricted funds first and the unrestricted funds. So, I think we're spending wisely on the projects. We do have 8.9 million unfunded at this point. And those are on the last page for 26.
Is there a place this form is on our website or?
It is, it's in our budget document. If you go to FY budget and the finance department, it's in the last pages. The page numbers are from that. And this is a 5-year capital improvement program, so you can see all 5 years of what the projects are and the we have not had major impacts with our federal and state grants yet. I watch seminars on a regular basis and informational things to see how that's going to impact us, but we haven't seen any major impacts at this time. The next slide. So this is over the whole 5 years of what we, so with the paperwork that I showed you and then we have $181 million of funded for plans and projects over the 5 years, 120 million unfunded. As far as creative things, so I'm an accountant by trade and I don't like creative accounting. But creative in my world is more like what other fees can we charge? Are there fees that we can charge? Are there like a sidewalk fee? I know that's been talked about quite a bit. Those things take council action to approve, or my understanding. So I'm still kind of new to this one. I'm still looking at Brent for little nods over there, just in
It
case.
all takes counsel.
Just to be clear, we were not hoping that you would do some creative magic.
This is an end roll.
Lotto tickets.
Shell game.
And one thing I want to note, I think the, 120 million of unfunded is probably lower than actuality, but that doesn't necessarily encapsulate like every identified project in our TMP.
Just sidewalks would be that, right?
Yeah. Yeah, so that's not including like redesigning all these corridors that we've talked about, whatever those will be. So these are,
It's only including what's on these pages.
Right. Yeah, so the actual like infrastructure needs would be much higher than that.
And I will add, I think that's why it's very important that we get the TMP done. Because as a part of the TMP, we're gonna come up with a priority list of projects, and then we'll come to Lori and ask how we can do some funding or bonding.
Non-creative funding.
Yeah.
Creative
Non-creative, how do we?
How would we fund these projects, right?
Well, and that's a big part of my job that I've always seen that way. I've been doing this for 20 years. I'm new here, but I'm not new to local government. And a big part of my job is when Brent comes to me and says, hey, I've got legal that's collapsing and I need a bunch of money. Okay, how do I find it? How do I help you do what you need to do? So that's a big part of what my responsibility is figuring all of it. We'll figure it out as we go along. We're working, I know we plan on working on a more refined CIP project plan, and a PMIS is getting rolled out. We've talked a lot about that with council. And I think as we refine that program and as we refine our 5-year CIP and we get more information, we'll have more of the fund everything for those plans for future.
And PMIS is our project management information system. So it's a citywide project management system.
That's different than when you go to apply for a permit. 'Cause that's a horrible system.
It's two separate things. So this is like how we as staff members are
Internally.
managing projects. Yeah, internally. There will be a public facing component to that will come later in 2026.
If you've heard of like Microsoft Project, that lays out the project plan, that's what the PM.
And we've never had one.
Yeah. That's wild.
We are very excited for PMIS to come.
Yes.
More than you were per workday.
Personally, yes. I don't work that much in Workday, so.
That was a loaded question. I apologize. That wasn't fair. That was not nice. That was a bad. Can I retaliate at appropriate time?
You know it.
It's the unfunded. Does that mean, like, is unfunded planned, but we need to find money for it?
It means
So
that.
this plan.
Yes, it's part of our 5-year plan and it's on that last page.
Yeah, 120.
Yep. It's what public works and other departments are always do. But we have found funding for it.
Where's this form again? I can't see the phone number.
Um,
But if the three of us are sharing one phone.
It should be FY 26, yep, there it is.
Yeah, so if you go to the city website and then go to, you can type in city budgets and finance reports. And then it's the 2026 proposed budget. There's a big PDF that has all this info. And we can send this link out or this PDF out to TMB members as well.
So we talk about the, what's it called, capital improvement?
Capital improvement program or the capital.
And sorry, I'm not just go through this in depth yet. How much, right now we're at somewhere between 10 and 12 million a year. When the Costco development comes online, what do we have that budgeted for? Like that comes online 28?
We're hoping it's gonna come online sometime in 26.
Well, the funding of it, because we pay them back for a bit, right?
So we do, I believe it's 10 years. We pay them a portion. It's
Oh,
not all
okay.
of it.
They get half,
Yes.
so
Mhm.
for up to 10 years.
And my understanding is we hired a consultant to do a revenue analysis and then Costco did a revenue analysis and we kind of went in the middle of the two. We figured one is very, very aggressive, which is probably Costco's. And then the consultant, we asked him to be more conservative for us. And we went kind of in the middle for the budget.
So where does that stand? Once it's up online, how much does that add to that 10 to 12?
So we budgeted in the general fund 1.2 million. I don't know off the top of my head exactly how much extra we budgeted in the capital improvement sales tax.
So 1.2, and that 1.2 reflects the 50-50 share.
Yes, that's just what we would keep.
So that still doesn't get us close to finding our 120.
That parking lot would be insane if it did.
So
Yes.
So where are you guys, where are your heads at right now, as far as how we're gonna find 120 million to fill the gap?
Well, as part of it, and Brent can probably speak more to this part, but a lot of these project costs aren't exactly finalized yet. So like, for instance, we had a project just yesterday, we were talking about that we had thought was gonna come in at one price, it came out a little bit actually less. Sorry, it came out a little bit more. So we had a couple other projects that came in a little bit less, so we were able to reallocate those funds. So I don't think we're gonna reallocate $8 million, But as we refine those estimates, I think that will help us figure out. And then we also have a capacity issue. How much can we actually do in a year?
You know, and that's what I was gonna add is like, I mean, even if we funded everything, we don't have enough staff to actually fulfill all those projects. And right now, we're focused on some really big projects, which is Project Downtown, right? And somewhere between 25 and 30 million is kind of what we're wondering, you know, we're guessing, I guess. And then we also have the Bellevue Service Center. We're replacing buildings 2 and 3. So right now in our service center, we have buildings 2 and 3 were built in 1948, and they're basically these big tin sheds with no insulation. And so that has kind of been, that's a big public works project also, and that's gonna take a lot of staff to get that through. And so, and then we also just have our normal road overlay and maintenance, which I believe we've budgeted around $8 million just for that. That was really kind of what 3A was pushing for, was upgrading infrastructure when that bill was passed. And we're nowhere near, we have something called the pavement condition index, and that's one of the reasons that the bill passed, because the roads were not in great shape. And we're trying to get to a PCI of 70, but that's probably gonna take us, I don't know, 6 to 7 years of pouring a bunch of money just into the poor streets to get that pavement condition to come back up. So that is kind of our focus for next year. We also have Nevada Street Bridge we're doing, which if you go downtown, there's a pedestrian bridge that's been closed for like 5 years. So we're actually gonna replace that next year. We have the Windermere Bridge over the Highline Canal that we're also gonna be replacing next year. So that's probably $5 million project. So we have, the staff is basically maxed out right now. So if we were gonna actually do all the safety stuff, it's where we find capacity of living.
So, tell me if I interpreted your answer correctly. I'm not sure if I did. Of the 70, what is it, almost 85 million, 84 million that we have of projects we're trying to do in 2026. Am I hearing you correct that we literally can't do, even if we had the money, we couldn't do?
We couldn't do extra is what I'm saying. We can do what we have budgeted for. And also we have the Quad Road project, right? And that's a $20 million project about, and that's gonna take a lot of staff time probably for the next at least 18 months. And so, yeah, I guess what I'm saying is we have enough staff to do what we have budgeted. We don't have enough staff to do much extra.
So you do have enough to do the 84 million, but we don't have, but we're 9 million shy of actually paying. Is that right?
The 75 is what he has staff to do. 75.5 million is what he has staff to do.
Then what's
That's
the
what
num-
the ones that are funded.
And what's the 8.9?
The 8.9 is the unfunded part, so that's the
So-
84.
So if we did have, if we found the 9 million, like just under the table right now, you still couldn't do it.
I don't think
because-
we could pull it off.
And so if we talk about the 181 million for the next 5 years,
So,
that's, I'm sorry, make sure I got my numbers right. The 181 is what we have planned, but we only have 60 million of that actually funded. Is that what those numbers mean? Or is it we have 300 million planned
yeah, we have 181 million planned and funded.
and funded?
Uh-huh.
And then there's another 120 that we'd like to do.
That's
So there's
about
300 million total. Did that number grow? I feel like it was 200 million, like back in February when Brett talked to us.
Yeah.
And
They found it. They found it.
Engineering budget, I
Oh,
mean,
yeah.
this is all projects
Yeah,
across the
this is
city.
citywide.
This is citywide, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so this includes, you'll see the departments that it includes up the top is, public safety's included. There's multiple and utility projects.
So I guess the same question goes for the next 5 years. If we found 120 million is lying around, could we actually do all the projects here, or is that gonna be a staffing issue? Well,
Not with that, no, I think, and Safer Streets is coming out of, I don't know if they call it, how it used to be.
And capital improvement, sales tax fund.
Yeah, so all that.
I
money-
did not name it.
Capital improvement sales, yeah. I mean, so all that money is what we're doing for safer streets and for a lot of the mineral overlay and maintenance. So it's kind of all together.
Is there a plan in the future for where funds and everything are projected to increase and grow is? It's Littleton, is there a plan to strategically acquire staff to be, meet the long term?
I guess what I'll say is the sales tax has been flat. We've gotten no growth in the last 3 years. Is that right? Or 2 or 3
We've
years?
had minimal growth the last couple of years. Right now, we're watching it extremely carefully this year because things have to be, really flattening out, if not declining a little bit. So we're watching it very cautiously, and that's basically all of the information.
Yeah, and
For
I'm
your
also.
people to shop in Littleton.
And we obviously have Costco, but then we also have the Santa Fe mineral projects, which are gonna bring in enormous amount of new revenue, new residents, new items, and some of that's already starting to come online at this point. We should also have noticeable.
Well, I think the mineral place, the Costco project has more revenue potential than the Santa Fe mineral. My understanding of the Santa Fe mineral, it's relatively, it's not retail intensive.
It's a lot of housing over there. From a public works perspective, when I see houses go up, it means it or maintenance costs us more money.
More maintenance, no revenue, very low revenue.
Well, yeah, I think the interesting thing about that is changing is because a third of our sales tax is Amazon. So now houses generate money. And that's you don't have to agree with me.
I'm pessimistic.
Yeah, that's fine. You to pessimistic, so that's good.
Did you say a third?
Yeah, a third of our sales taxes is
Amazon.
out of state is how it's in Lori's report.
It's significant, and that's growing significantly.
But it kind of changes the economics of cities where houses now really generate money. But I want your pessimism, so don't.
So again, like, what I'm hearing is, I mean, funding is always gonna be an issue, so you guys have to about big things, but what I'm hearing is the bigger issue is the staff. The bottle, I don't say it's a bottleneck, you guys aren't a bottleneck, but like that is the bottleneck, right? And so even if we can generate $120 million more, we're not getting wider sidewalks, we're not getting all the things, we're not getting mill and overlay. Apparently isn't here for $7 million. So I guess my question is, what's the point of this list? If we came up with the money tomorrow and we still couldn't do it, what's the point of having this list?
We'd have to hire staff.
Yeah, that's our staff, which we don't have anywhere to put any more staff.
Yeah.
I mean.
Can I answer that question?
Sure, yes, that'd be great.
I mean, the big question we're dealing with is how much debt do we want to have? And that list is what we would spend debt on. And, last year and this year, we are going into the debt for the first time. We agreed at our last meeting to go into debt for storm sewer replacement. And I think that was kind of the first step, and that's different. It was one of the types of stuff that it's really, I think the question over the next 5 years is how much debt do we want? And what do we, and I don't think I do not want 120 million debt to be, but I'm happy to have a conversation. My colleagues and I think are happy to have a conversation about what is the right amount. And it'll include I think we're going to use all the most of the debt tools. I don't think we're going to use revenue bonds, but it depends on how you describe it. We're going to use most of the debt tools that she described. We're going to do geo bonds, we're going to do COPs, we're going to do revolving loans, which we agreed to. And hopefully, what I want us to have is kind of a plan for debt and what it should look like. And this is kind of the first step of that.
Are our charter restrictions below normal for a city?
So we did do some research, and I worked with our legal staff to do some research on it. So typically what I'm being told, and this is not my research, but is that in Colorado, it's usually based on the appraised values, not the assessed values. So the assessed values are typically much smaller, like, actually for Littleton, actually have it. For Littleton, the assessed value is $1.3 billion. So the appraised value is significantly more than that. I didn't have the appraised, sorry, I thought I had that. But the assessed value is so small that that's what limits us to the $48 million.
And that's the value of the city's property?
Like our homes.
Taxes, what we're
Oh,
taxing.
taxes.
Yes,
It's-
we
okay.
tax citizens. We do tax 2 mills in
Got it.
all 3 counties on the city limits.
So it's a percentage of the taxable property in the city.
It's 1.3 billion.
1.3 billion is the assessed value.
It's like 2,600 $500,000 homes. Like, like that's not a lot. We have what, like 22,000 properties in Littleton, and so
Honestly, I'm not sure how many
Yeah.
properties we have in.
The assessed is different than.
then the appraised, yeah,
So-
that's a big difference.
So Lori, if the city wanted to explore changing that in our city charter from assessed to appraised, would it be a vote of the people or just
Yes.
a?
No, a vote of the people.
I know a committee that's gonna be bringing a list.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the things that they were talking about at the charter review committee as well, is that piece of it. And I'm not recommending we get into a lot of debt. There's a concept behind, how much you should have and what you shouldn't have, and what's fair to the citizens, because if we do everything on a pay-as-you-go basis, we're not as transient here as other cities that I work for. But that means we're stockpiling all the money that everybody's paid until we can pay for a project. So at least if we issue debt at cost-effective rates, then the people who are paying for the debt are the ones who are using the assets. So there's different concepts there, and I think that's why, what Councilmember said, we're using all the tools in our toolbox so that we get that really nice mix there.
And I think if good debt is a good thing, right? Because inflation keeps going up and infrastructure keeps going up. So if you go into a little bit of debt to build infrastructure now, you're actually building it cheaper than you would if you tried to stockpile that money and try to build it all 20 years from now. So the fact that we don't have any debt.
So the one thing I will caution, and I know everybody talks about this, it is my view, is that as human beings, we're very inclined to think that what happened last year is how it's gonna be next year. And so there's not, to say that inflation is gonna continue to go up, you have to have a thought as to why it's gonna continue to go up, not just because that's what we've seen.
Well, I guess I will say that, over my career, it used to be that you would say that construction costs would go up 3% every year. Right? COVID happened, they went up 20 to 30%. The last few years have been 8%. I think we're probably eventually getting it back to that 3%, but nothing is ever cheaper.
Unless there's pretty catastrophic things from an economy perspective.
And what,
Right, yeah,
what
exactly.
bigger work?
Then we're not worried about our sidewalks.
Yeah, sidewalks. So does,
Yes, but there is the aspect of, if you're paying 5% on your debt and costs really go up by 3%, you're still behind.
Well, we typically can borrow a lot better rates than that. Like I presented last night, the state revolving fund is 3.25%. Very favorable rate. And when we go to market, if you go to market with Go bonds, we usually issue bonds at premiums, which means if we need $30 million, they'll give us 30 million, we might pay 28 for it, not 30. So we usually get very favorable rates when we go to market. Probably not as, gosh, probably 5 years ago, well, more than that now, 6 or 7 years ago, we were borrowing money at like 0.75.
All different interest rate environment.
I wish we were back in that time, but we didn't earn as much interest either, so.
so would a disaster come out of the 120 unfunded? So let's say another Lee Gulch or something like that, where you had no idea it was gonna happen, but it's gotta be fixed.
Reserves, right?
Yeah, it would come out of our reserves if there's something that's catastrophic that has to be repaired, or we would shift a project here or there, like we had to do with Lee Gulch, they had to delay one project in order to do another, but emergency things come out of our reserve.
Half of that unfunded is library. At some point, because it is such a massive undertaking.
And I don't know if we've even thought about how we're gonna fund that. I mean, it's $3 million project. Do everything in master plan and we only have funding, I think, for maybe the first project, which is to actually put a crosswalk between the library and museum. That's like the right, but as far as the rest of it, I don't think we have a plan for how that's gonna get funded.
I know we were looking for some grants for that. I have my grant, people looking to try and find some grants for that. A lot of times like open spaces, things like that, parks that we can a lot of times find grants for, so that's what we're looking for.
Is the library a replacement, like tearing it down and building a new one? Or is it like improvements to the structure? Because the library still seems quite nice to me.
It's a cool.
Well, I would say
Wasn't
the
that
library,
Eugene Sternberg?
library is
Like,
quite
it's a-
nice, but I would say that the
The age of
the
it.
HVAC and the mechanical part is very old.
So it would be like a like a renovation, not necessarily building a new one.
Yeah, I mean, that would be,
I think that's
that would be, I don't think anybody.
That
wants
feels-
to-
that feels like I would not ask Brent to make that decision. I would ask the politicians to make that decision.
Yeah.
If that's okay, is that?
Yes, I.
I didn't know if it was already decided or not.
No decisions have been made. No. I think what has happened since I've been on council is that staff has effectively said this should be on your radar, and it is on our radar.
So
Full facility assessment.
Well, we did an assessment, and so we have 38 structures that are responsible for, and the average age of our buildings is 78 years old. So this year, we're actually gonna do a facilities master plan to try to prioritize all the deferred maintenance that's been going on. So that is also another bunch of those unfunded projects that are gonna be coming.
is there, looking at the funded projects, it doesn't seem like there's a lot for like build out of bicycle networks or things like that. So, you know, the library is interesting, but we are the Transportation and Mobility Board. You know, so we have to find money. If we do any of those projects, those are pretty much all unfunded right now, except for like, it seems like, you know, temporary pilots and things like that, for the most part, studies, you know, are all that's funded right now.
Yeah, our quick build protected bike lanes have currently been funded under the Safer Streets umbrella.
It was like Safer Streets, there's $1 million that's not funded next year, so.
And I guess.
800,000, you know, 2026 for.
That's just complete streets. Safer Streets is another $1 million. Sidewalk widening is $3 million. 88 improvements widening is $1.5 million. That's all unfunded.
Yeah.
There's a lot just in this next coming year, unfunded.
Yeah, I guess. I haven't spoken.
So now's the time to
I'm looking for creative ideas. I mean, if we're gonna be doing mill and overlay projects, we probably need to, as a staff, come together and maybe get a little creative that when we do mill and overlay, maybe we'll also do some safer street stuff as a part of the project. And maybe we don't do as much of the pavement management, which our curve won't go up as steep, and our conditions won't go up as fast. Maybe there's gonna have to be some kind of trade-off, right? We're gonna have to be creative about how we spend our money.
Well, one thing is the priority that we identified is we want some product, right? You know, do it once, do it right. Don't try to do it 3 times.
Yeah, I think from a citizen's perspective, you know, we've done a lot of studying and we've done pilot projects, but there's very little in terms of results in terms of like concrete. I was gonna say concrete something, but concrete is actually a really good thing to say. So there's like the Powell one, you know, that has the armadillos.
Zebras.
Zebras? Okay, yes. Yes. You know, like that feels like more long-term, but, you know, like looking through this, it feels like.
Well, I guess what I'll add is so the
Oh, yeah. That one's
So
really,
that was our first like complete street project.
that was great.
And what did that cost us? That was 2.4 for the half mile.
Well, if it's 4 for the whole half mile.
So yeah, so if we wanted actually to do a complete street with all the safety stuff, it's basically $4 million for a half mile. So $8 million for a mile. So
I just feel like I'm an old guy, like shaking my cane at the sky saying, how can it cost so much? You know, but. Yeah.
Are there complete,
I mean, it's expensive, right? And so that is also a trade-off, right? To spend $8 million on a mile of roadway, or do we do a bunch of mill and overlay and pavement management more throughout the entire city? So it's kind of a give and take at this point.
Obviously, they should all be in District 2 first, right?
People who don't want sidewalks.
are there,
The anti-sidewalk crowd.
I know when I take my family to a city that looks like Littleton, we will walk and shop for as far as we feel safe to do so. So are there areas of these complete street projects where they're actually an investment to like build downtown Littleton into an actual larger downtown with an uptown and a downtown, or making a safer space in Alamo or Prince? Or are there any of these low-hanging fruits that, yes, it's going to cost as much as it's going to cost, but it would actually generate revenue in the process?
We did that. I think we actually did something smart, so we'll pat ourselves on the back. So we actually added Main Street and Littleton Boulevard between Santa Fe and Broadway into the regional transportation plan, which means that we would be eligible for TIP money through Dr. Call, which is Denver Council of Regional Government. So even though we haven't applied for any grants for it yet, it does put that section of roadway as something we could get federal money for. And that's the same money that we use to fund the quad road. A lot of that is what we call TIP money. It's transportation improvement program. So that's the money we use for the quad road. So we set ourselves up for the future, at least to be able to improve that corridor.
So you kind of like zoned it in a way.
We got it on the regional plan. And so that gives us the eligibility to go after federal money. There's not a lot of federal money to go after right now, but 10 years from now, maybe that changes and maybe we can actually do a longer corridor.
Could we like put the entire crabapple route on that plan, or like what?
So the tricky part is it has to be a major roadway or an arterial.
So it has to be car centric.
Yeah, so it's very car centric still, but Bowles Avenue to the west was already on there. And so we thought it made sense to get the rest of ours to Broadway and connect it.
Okay, so that could be a whole, literally an avenue.
And that's, would say that's 5 to 10 years out before we would do that. But I think it ties nicely into the sub-area plan that our planning group is doing. And they would come up with some projects that would go after TIP money.
So it seems like from, the Envision Littleton and other things that the goal of Littleton Boulevard is placemaking, and to make it nicer. Does making it more does adding it to this make it so we have to have a certain amount of service per hour of cars or anything? Okay, yeah.
No, it's
Actually, multimodal is one of the things that they really encourage as part of.
Oh, great. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, and there's the way that TIP funding is split up, there's different buckets of funding, right? And some of those are specific towards multimodal, like air quality.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, some of it's air quality, congestion mitigation. So there's federal standards that we have to meet, but then the way the money comes down, it comes down through the regions for Dr. Cog, and then some of it gets funneled to the sub-regions, which is Arapahoe County. And so we get a seat at the table to come up with additional criteria. And so sometimes that can be, multimodal access or transit access, things like that. So we have a say in kind of what makes it more competitive, but no, it doesn't have to be.
And some of that money's been used for trails already.
Yeah, well, so the county line project where we're putting in a shared use path on the south side of the roadway, we're not doing any capacity upgrades or anything like that. And that's TIP funding through one of the previous TIP cycles, so.
Is it only one road or could it be like the one off on Powell?
Yeah, I mean, it could be several. At the sub-regional level, probably $3 to $5 million is a good chunk of that. We get $30 million or $30 to $32 million is what we got at the last time. So, and there's, all the jurisdictions in Arapahoe County. So, but it's large enough. We could go after a regional project where there's, talking like 8 figures. 9
Yeah,
figures.
but projects have to be a part of that regional roadway
Yeah.
system to qualify for TIP funding. So that was kind of the whole impetus of our corridor study project, which, we were unsuccessful with multiple grants and is unfunded at this point, is because most of those neighborhood connector roadways, as we identified them in our TMP, do not qualify for TIP funding. And that is kind of our largest avenue for large regional funding opportunities outside of, Arapahoe County open space has to be towards open space trails, those types of things, or going after direct federal funding, which is what we had applied for.
So I think in here, we've talked before about the idea, and by the way, I think we kind of need to start wrapping this conversation up. So if there was more specific questions exactly on funding, let's do it. But we've talked about the idea of using grants as funding. We certainly have improved that dramatically over the last 10 years. But I think what we talked about, the downside is grants are trying to be pretty strategic grants, right? They kind of show up, the opportunities show up, and you jump on them. And so it's not a great use, it's not a great plan for us for a lot of things we have in here.
I mean, I think there's a decent amount that is predictable. It's just not guaranteed, right? So if there's a project we need to have happen, right? If we may think it's a really great project, but if we bring it to the Arapahoe County subregion and everybody's
number 3
projects above us, then it's just, we're out of luck. So we wouldn't want to fund projects that we feel are like vital, like have to happen, right? So.
Yeah, and it kind of depends on what year you apply and what other projects are scoring. There's just a lot of unknown when it comes to grants, right? How much federal funding is filtered through DRCOG and will be available, that can change over time. How many direct federal funding opportunities are there? That changes per administration and Congress passing bills. And so yeah, there's just a lot of unknowns when it comes to grants.
There's also a lot of strings attached too. So how much did the Race Crossing project end up costing? Yeah, our original estimate for that, I think, was around $500,000 if we did it internally. And when you add all the federal regulations and hoops we have to jump through it gets expensive, so.
Crosswalk was 1.2.
Well, there's 3 of them.
Oh, okay, I was like.
Associated storm sewer, but yeah, that's a prime example of.
Yeah.
And how much that was funded by federal grants that?
I think we
Did
got
it wash?
200,
okay.
So the $200,000 cost us $500,000.
Okay, we learned there. And also, and I'll try not to belabor this too much, but we only get 2 years, right, to construct the project. And so we're finding that when it's lines on paper, getting from there to construction and jumping through all the hoops is becoming hard. And now we're, having those conversations with DRCOG. We're like, hey, we're making progress, but can we get another year to finish this up? So.
And one thing I want to point out, federal projects usually have a post out, like hoops, streams, everything that you have to do with this program, like Buy America. But state level and like sub area level are going to be much more easier for them to do. But it's something that there's just not as much of that, and there's a lot more federal types.
The last thing, yes, because I'm cognizant of time, is I know Josh, you had asked about kind of like economic impacts. And so I know we did do a economic assessment for downtown that Adrian will be presenting that kind of looked at that. I don't know if either of you have information on that, or we can also look into it.
Did she already present that?
She did. So we've had that presentation and I think it essentially said predicting out 30 years is really hard. We believe that investing $30 million will have a return. And there's opportunities to invest more to have higher returns if you want to do it. Meaning that the tax revenue will pay off what we invest over 30 years. But the other thing is, what are the returns that matter to the city? And tax revenue is one. Additional investment by other organizations could be I believe is a positive thing. And I think there's things that are not measured, like place saving community as well. But as somebody who does modeling, you get 30 years out and there's a lot of hand waving. Like, things are going to happen. And the guy who was one of the lead presenters, he's like, yeah, I led the development at DIA and we knew it would pay off, and it has paid off, but the investments that actually happened at DIA are nothing that they predicted. So, which made me feel really confident about his predictions.
But I know as part of Project Downtown, we did look into other cities who have invested in their downtowns, and they have seen that, public investment has seen more revenues generated from that, so.
All right. Thank you. Really appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for coming, guys. I appreciate it. I'm sorry we're starting half an hour early.
That's
Had chips.
my fault. I
No,
saw
it's not.
an invite and I thought.
It's confusing. It's confusing.
I'll be here at 6.
All right, next on our agenda is an update on the pilot project. So setting expectations again, trying to keep this on time. I think what we've been asking about in here is, we've gotten a lot of updates on pilot projects. We've gone and seen them and seen zebras and armadillos and orcas and how they all play together. And we've gotten updates on the various toolkits and updated toolkits and new updated toolkits and updated toolkits. And so there's a lot, we've got a lot of information, but what we haven't gotten is, where do we go from here, right? Like, let me try that differently. We created these pilot projects. The idea was they're supposed to be pilot projects, they're not permanent projects. We've seen and we've gotten feedback from our neighbors that there's no real updates to these, right? It's that we put them in, we collect data. We've said we collect data. We're going to use that data to then tweak them and there's not been a lot of vision of that, visibility of that. And so what we're really trying to get is, what is the plan there? Like, how's that going to work? When are we going to start seeing updates to them? Are there examples that we could talk about what's going to be done? We're not going to get into the weeds. We have a tendency to do this. We're not gonna be like, oh, but if you just made it go to the left a little bit, or just put this thing here. That's not what our goal is here. Our goal is to understand how the next 6 to 12 months, what types of changes should we expect to see, and kind of how did we get to those? Make sense?
Sounds good. And have you guys met Emily and Kyle before?
We've met before.
Emily used to come along, yeah.
They always crush it every time they're here. We're so excited. It's amazing.
All right, well, how you guys get?
Kyle, I'm leaving, so just tell me when.
Okay.
Yeah. Did you get this one?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Yeah, so Kyle's gonna start us off though, like going into the neighborhood traffic calming evaluation and toolbox that you've heard so much about, and then talking a bit about the materials that we're using out there for quick builds and pilots. And then I will jump over to giving some updates on the neighborhood traffic calming program and where we're at with that and what it will be looking like moving forward. And that will give you some answers, hopefully, to sort of what to expect in the next, 6 to 12 months regards to like the program, which flows into the pilot projects. And then just updates on the pilot projects that we have planned for this year's package of products, or projects.
So I'm gonna, unless anyone on the board has questions, I'd say unless something's changed on the toolkits and stuff in the last 6 weeks, we probably skip over this.
Cool with me.
Okay.
Cool, they look great.
It's awesome stuff.
It's on the website now.
Yeah.
You guys can
Yeah,
find it.
website.
Any questions?
We've seen them a lot with tours.
Yeah, they're on if you go to the Safer Streets website, you can find all the information, the existing conditions data book, toolbox. And
Yeah, have you guys heard much about like the toolbox guidance
at all. So we also have a document supplemented with the details that really provides, you know, what street classifications, type of traffic volumes, those individual treatments are good for, and kind of on a scale, what sort of speed reduction or volume reduction there is generally expected with those. And also lists of pros and cons that's also on the website, on the Safer Streets page.
Great.
Yeah, so
That's on the Littleton.
Yeah, if you go to the Littleton website and then type in safer streets, and then it's under our data and making section.
It will also live on the new neighborhood traffic calming webpage, under step 4 design phase.
The new flip is coming.
You have,
so shift location.
yeah, I'll talk more about that in a moment, but I was gonna chat some, I guess, about the quick builds, if you guys want to hear about those.
Well, here's the material. Sounds like you guys are familiar with the materials, so.
Pick them and jump on.
Littleton Zoo.
Cool. So yeah, the zebras. One that's on here that we haven't done yet is the zippers. That's second from the left. We do have plans to use some of those on Windermere next year, tying in with what Brent was talking about and capitalizing on some of the opportunities that pavement management provides us, so piggybacking off of management on Windermere to improve bike lanes, provide some protection. Safety lane dividers on Church installed, and the Orcas are on Bellevue West School. Next one, and here's just some other general ones, flex posts. You guys all see them. Colored curbing, like it's all over some of the older pilot projects and on the Littleton Boulevard crossing. Also some that we haven't really used yet, but we want to get into using as modular medians. Also, one thing you'll see with pilot projects coming up in the spring is some modular rubber speed cushions.
All right.
So Speed Cushion was a good name for a punk band, but Rubber Speed Cushion is even better.
All right, so neighborhood traffic calming program. It currently, as it stands today, if you were to go to the website, there's a lot of information, and the process that we have there is not one that we have been really keeping to. So to really just create a program that honestly is more simplified, both for the city staff and for residents. You know, we've gone in and I'll go into a bit here. There's kind of 3 big areas of updates that were made. So one is internally, how are we working through this process? And on the next slide, we've updated the schedule just right before this, but have kind of created a schedule internally that will help us moving forward into next year, be able to kind of have an annual package of projects that come from the neighborhood traffic calming requests. So one of the things, you know, that I will be doing is a monthly categorization of requests and then reviewing them. They need to be reviewed or discussed at our monthly traffic safety committee meetings. And then another thing, I guess, yes, for the internal process is, as you're well aware, this 2025 package of projects are not installed yet, right? Like the quick builds have been installed, but we still have a lot of traffic calming projects that need to go out there. And so in order to sort of not dig ourselves further down into a backed up schedule, we're really shifting the schedule moving forward and gonna be doing construction of pilots in the spring. And that also really helps our operations crew, because summer is typically when it's a much heavier, larger construction season. So doing it more in the earlier springtime is gonna hopefully help out our crews as well. We're working on some automations just to help the process internally for us to make it more efficient, as well as having an internal cutoff date for when we say requests that are submitted after this date are not going to be considered for this year's package of projects. It will be still documented, but it will go into the next large amount of data that we will evaluate for the next year's package. And that cutoff date I'll get to in the next slide Program structure, big thing here is that we did not have any sort of way of prioritizing which project or which requests that we addressed first. So a creation of a prioritization tool and a scoring method I created. It is going to be, I think, something that's, or we are up to adapting over time since it's in its first iteration. We're using it for this next round of projects to select them, but if we feel like there needs to be adjustments to the scoring method or way we prioritize things, you know, it's not set in stone. And then something that's also key to the program that we feel like will hopefully inform these projects in the future is that now when you can go and submit a request, we have a couple of questions asking you about whether you may have experienced a near miss or an actual crash, whether it was a crash with a driver or it was just, you know, you might have hit curbing, you know, some of the pop-up materials and fell. It allows us to have that near miss crash reporting. And lastly, we are trying to make sure we're communicating all of this stuff a lot better. I will give you a quick preview of what the updated website should look like. We're having some automated emails built in so that now there's no longer a backlog of requests that don't have a response from us. We have an automation system where when we update the request status from new request to not eligible or referred to another agency, or under evaluation, a resident will receive an email letting them know that, and also sending them to this new public dashboard that we've created where folks can see all of the requests, the location of them, and the status, along with some other key data points that help us kind of get to that status. So the street type and the speeds and volumes, as well as existing pilot projects that are on the ground. And then last but not least, creating some actual like paper materials to be able to have moving forward, especially like TMP outreach, update outreach next year, a little pamphlet. So folks, if they have issues or concerns, instead of being able to say, oh, go to the website, we can hand them a real pamphlet. I'm gonna just quickly run through this since it's not actually up to date anymore as of a couple hours ago, but basically we now have a working process that has a schedule that we will keep to of this is when we are reviewing requests and, you know, again, sort of say this is when we're going to stop. And now we move into the selection and prioritization, and the prioritization process includes additional data collection that I will get into. And so we move through this process. It should be about a 18-month-ish. I don't know. Like the idea is that we would start prioritizing in August, and then through the winter or fall and winter, we would work on the designs, and then by spring is when we would actually have the installation of projects, and then do evaluation sort of through the summer. That helps inform project selection and revisions once we get to August again, and then kind of move in that cyclical cycle. And we also will be incorporating a evaluation stage of projects that, you know, have been in and now, okay, it's meeting our thresholds, or it's meeting all of the criteria that we want to see that to advance it to permanence. And so sort of categorizing those as well of it's been in the ground for a year, it's meeting these, you know, safety goals that we want to see. As we can figure out with funding, this is a project we'd like to move forward. And so that's another element that will happen in around this time of the year, because it's when we'll be doing evaluation of the entire Safer Streets program. So just kind of added in with all that. If you visit the website, there's this fun little flow chart. It's now updated to just kind of help, and again, with the whole website, to just help folks know the 6 steps that we follow. Basically, a request is submitted, then we collect some first thresholds of data to determine, does this meet our speed and volumes that we need to see that there is a safety risk or concern here. Once it gets there, we then move it to under evaluation, and those will all be prioritized based on additional data that we collect. Projects that rise to the highest level, depending on the locations and other timing, maybe project pavement management and others, nitty-gritty details we'll have to iron out, we'll develop a package of projects that then move on to step 4 with the design phase, where we develop, the concepts and then implement it there in the springtime and then evaluate and make revisions. So this is just to kind of cleanly show folks how we're moving through this program. Prioritization tool that I keep talking about. These are the additional data pieces that we collect. And so we already have the speed and volume that we would have collected. The priority mode designation is something that will likely update within the TMP update next year, but it is basically streets within the city have a bike or ped priority or transit priority designation. So speed and volume have 20% of the total weight because those are some of the highest indicators of a safety risk to us. Then priority mode designation and crash history have 15%. Priority mode designation has 20% as well. And safe routes to school routes are also considered one of those as well. Crash history, crash count, and so both the type and frequency of the crashes is 15%, and activity generators, which means places that generate people walking and biking activities, schools, parks, the library, some shopping centers, things like that. Within a quarter mile of that request, the count of them, that is 15% of the score. And then the number of additional requests at that location, as well as if the street type is a neighborhood connector, those both get like 5% of the score. And then I've actually updated this since here. And so now there's a low, medium, high priority, and immediate priority. And so immediate priority are the very highest scoring ones that would be moving towards pilot projects. High priority still means, if we have additional funding, we would move it up there, but these are ones that will ideally the next year, move up to being the immediate priority unless other locations rise to the top. Medium is the same way it works, right? Like low priority, we're never going to just take all of these requests and ignore them. We're going to continue to, update the data as we can, and observe if anything has changed. But if it's a low priority location and we have other places that continue to show up as higher priority, we're going to address those high priority locations before we do the low and medium ones. So this is a way for us to try and have a more data-driven approach to where we are putting in traffic calming projects. And this is not the only source of data that we will use to select pilot project locations, as in requests we get from folks. If we as a staff or you have a location that is backed up by data that we have here, that somebody hasn't put in a request for, it could also move forward as one of the pilot projects within that annual package. So it doesn't have to just come from a resident submitting a request. Like I mentioned, there's this dashboard that we have created, which will live on the new website. Like I said, speed, volume, there's a great little explainer of how you can move through it. And we will be sure to share, this website will be live in early January. So feel free to go in there and explore it and learn more about the requests and the status of them. I feel like I've mentioned, we have a lot of different ways of this is first off, it's a cyclical sort of process. And so we're going to prioritize based on data and then select the project. And then once a project is selected, we will go out and do pre-installation data collection to set a baseline of radar counts. Once it's installed, we then go out about 3 months or so after installation and do those post-installation counts to make sure or see if we are getting the results we want to see. And that will help then inform revisions or projects for the next year of, does this project get us to the safety goals we're wanting to see? And if not, it needs to, and if it's still really showing up as a high priority location, we're going to make changes to it. Sorry. And then as far as just how we select pilot projects, like I said, it can be traffic calming requests. There can be operations, maintenance feedback, survey feedback, and the speed and volume data. So that's kind of, it's not just from this request form. We also will take other sources to help us determine where we should be doing these calmings. There's a lot of data here to see. I think to be very transparent, the survey right now has mostly negative feedback from residents, but I think that that's partly due to my wording of some of the questions. We needed some wordsmithing maybe done and can make changes for the future. I think that perception of safety and comfort get misconstrued. And so there is a lot of folks who believe that it is much less safe now that we've installed these protected bike lanes. A lot of those are drivers. And I will say 90% of the folks who filled out the survey were mostly drivers. But that doesn't discount that their experience on the roadway matters as well. And so we're going to take this data and help inform any revisions that we need to make to these quick builds, and two, help us inform a better survey that will get us really informative data to help us both revise the designs and know if we should be moving forward fully with this project. But at the end of the day, safety data, the safety speeds, the speeds and the volume and crash history, those types of quantifiable data, that's really going to guide if a project moves to permanence. If we have a large level of community pushback on a project, I think there's ways that we can work with the community to find a solution that everybody will be happy with. But just because there's a strong not support for it doesn't mean that project will disappear. I think a lot of the times the issues is that it is a pilot and used with these plastic or less permanent materials. And so once we can move it to permanent, there might be a shift in attitude from the community.
I would like to point out though, and I think we've talked with the board before, kind of the difference between pilots and quick builds. And so quick builds meaning our protected bike lanes. And so pilots, we're definitely going to evaluate for that permanent installation. The protected bike lanes, the materials we're using now are quick build materials, but those are kind of
semi-permanent,
yeah, for lack of a better term, just because of the cost implications to actually build that out in concrete and drainage and all those things. So
how long, if you left a pilot project, this is a pilot project, how long will it last?
our oldest one was installed, what did you say, 2018, 2019?
Yeah, that was Beaumont South, but we took that out pretty quick.
When did we put in Windermere?
That would have probably been 2019, maybe 2020. So, but that's been, things have been replaced. Those aren't the original. This is a plastic. And
is the question more of how long we choose to leave it in?
No, the question is
The durability of it?
Yeah, durability, because the difference in cost between pilot and permanent is so huge. And so, I guess I'm like, well, why not just, I do shop at H&M, and that can maybe reflect that.
It's going to depend on your materials. Part of the reason why you're seeing us use this product, the zipper and the zebra from a manufacturer called Zikla, is that they do have a lot more mounting points than the previous. So these color curbing that we've used out a lot, they only have 2 bolt points. And so our crews have had to go out and replace a lot more of them. Same with delineators. Those are always going to be something that is, they get hit, you've felt them before. They're not the most durable thing. But I would say all of these materials that you're seeing us use now have a much greater durability.
Yeah, I'm not worried about the quick build materials. I'm like, for the pilot materials.
Which is also what we will be using. So, the Zikla, the zebra and the zipper are going to be used
more in the
for example, Lake and Spotswood, I have us removing the existing white curbing to be replaced with zipper because it's more durable, and ideally it's a little bit more aesthetically pleasing as well.
And I think probably that intersection is a good example of how, the feedback we got is people didn't like the way it looked, but the data we got showed that the speeds reduced significantly. And so here's an example of us trying to respond to that, and how do we still accomplish the safety goal while responding to the community's desire to have something that's looks less like straws, right?
I mean, I feel like the comfort question, the whole point is to make people uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So,
Well, and so that was the problem, right? Is that the question we asked in the survey was about safety, and people were more so saying, no, I don't feel safe, but really they were more than likely less like adjusting to a new driving behavior and environment, and so it felt uncomfortable.
Well, what we haven't done, we do all sorts of things we need to do, but we have not actually communicated to people effectively that that is a feature, not a bug.
Yeah, well, and so something that's really interesting though is that's that first question about like safety, it's negative, but then as you dig into the rest of the questions, I mean, for example, the impact on travel frequency, I think compared to the improved safety has an interesting point where a lot of people are saying they feel less safe, but yet
They're driving the same.
they're not going, it's not going to impact how they use the roadway. So
Because people have to go, I mean, I don't know if I buy into that one, but they have to go they have to go places, they have to go to the store, like, are they gonna stop driving to the store because they don't like, because they feel less safe driving on that little.
Or alternate route.
perception of protection from the materials, right? Like here is about the same, like people. I think that once you start digging into we start digging into some of the other questions beyond just that, like before or after, do you feel less or more safe? That first question, it's the first question in the survey. People who don't like it are gonna go, no. You know?
And like 27% said these quick build protections made me feel less safe.
Yeah, and
That's insanity in my opinion.
and I think there's a lot of, so there was one, I think there's only 2 people who have given feedback on church. And one of the responses, their answer literally jumps from like no, like they don't like it, they don't feel safe, to the next question is very much protected. And so part of me thinks it could be a bot or somebody just not taking it seriously, but the answers don't make sense to me the way they answer one after another. And then the second person, while their concerns are very valid, they had issue with the appearance of the concrete curb and their concern that if you run into it, you're gonna fall. And that is a concern. I think that if you were to turn the other way, you would also hit curb and possibly fall. So it's one of those things where if we start digging into the data a little bit more, people need a way to express frustration with a change to their community that they didn't get feedback on.
Yes.
And get to have input on. And so.
And many of them just don't fully understand the concepts behind it. They've not been able to educate them appropriately. I mean, I will share, when we did the Euclid walk, I was talking to one of the neighbors there, and he was complaining about one of the quick builds. I forget which one it was. He's like, oh, you know, it makes it, you don't really know, and it's narrow, and it makes you confused, and it makes you slow down. I said, so what did you do when you got confused? I slowed down, and I said, you know, speed is the #1 contributor to fatality in an accident. And you could just see, he goes, oh, and he's the one who said, feature, not a bug. I'm like, yes. He goes, I need to go talk to my wife about that.
We have one of the responses where if somebody does not like the, I think it was Phillips, they, in their comment, said that I feel less safe driving, but then in all caps, they said, but then I feel, and in all caps, more safe biking.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so that one, to me, is a win. I mean, I wouldn't say obviously it's not a full win because we don't want them to feel unsafe driving, but again, I think that they might be safety and perception of safety is very important for any mode user. And so we want to make sure that they do feel that they are safe driving. But I think part of that takes adjustment to a new environment.
Hold on, Matt, we've had this conversation multiple times.
Yeah.
So we need to move
I'll
it.
move us forward. So I want to show you the updated webpage. We still have to have it run through our comms folks to make sure everything is accessible and things like that. But now, one of the things that I have right here at the very beginning is something to try and just explain what traffic calming is and is not. So things that we look like the locations, as in local streets and neighborhood connectors, where we will consider these types of traffic calming projects and the types of treatments. And then kind of quickly saying, these are the types of things that that are not traffic calming. And these are the types of treatments that we wouldn't consider. So just to kind of try and hopefully get that out of the way. Once I can work with our GIS team, ideally we'll have an embedded map here or the dashboard that you'll be able to see again of all the requests and things. And then you move into the guide where you can walk through and I guess submit a concern, which I might need to move up actually, now that I think about it, I'm going through it. And then you move through and you have your information about how the program works. Something that is new that I forgot to mention is we are ordering these yard signs that I designed that say, slow down a little, it pays a ton. I wish I had a photo that I could quickly bring up, but I tried to play off the little thing that downtown has on the signs, but yeah, it says like slow down a little and it pays a ton. So there's yard signs that folks, if they would like one, are available to request, and we will have it for pickup here. And then the data collection and the different statuses that a request can be filed under, and then some data definitions, just so folks are aware of what terminology we're using. And this is the scoring methodology. So like I mentioned earlier, the different data type, and then this is explaining the priority levels and what that means for staff. And then you move into the design phase where, like I mentioned, we have links here to the traffic calming toolbox and existing conditions report. I need to fix the way that's formatted. There needs to be a header. But this kind of talks about like how we use that to inform the projects. And then it moves into the installation where we do have a note about communications, letting folks know that if there is a project near them, they will receive advance notification and that we will update the website regularly, which would then, if you select this, it would take you to that web page where we update about upcoming and current and previous projects and all that good stuff. Lastly, what we do at the end of evaluation and revisions, and so link to the survey and just some notes around the 3 different ways that we really evaluate, including the public, the feedback survey, speed and data collection, and other safety data that we might use to inform if it's effective or not. And then we definitely work with our operations team to make sure things are functioning and not creating any additional safety concerns. And then, yeah, just resources, our traffic email. So if folks want to reach out, they can.
That looks really good. Like that's great.
Appreciate that.
Can we talk a little bit about the revisions and the evaluation revisions? Specifically existing projects and going through, I mean, I kind of have a whole bevy of questions I want to throw at you. I'll throw a few, but so are we going to run those through the scoring process? In other words, the ones that are existing, are we gonna go say like, if we had to do it all over again, would it be a high, a low? And part of where I'm going with that is if it's a low and we're not getting we didn't see a lot of improvement from it, shouldn't we be thinking about pulling that out and reusing those resources somewhere else? I also am curious, you talked about there was a lot of improvement on the Lake Street. How are we going to communicate that out? Is that gonna be on this website as well? Are we gonna say, here are our projects and here's what it looked like before and here's how much better we made it by doing it? I will tell you what I keep hearing is residents saying, it got ugly, I don't like driving through it, and it didn't do any good. And they said it was a pilot project. What we heard a little bit about was, well, this is to see if it works, and if it doesn't, we'll tweak it. And we haven't seen any tweaking at all. So I'm trying to get at this of like that evaluation and revision. Have we done any? Are we going to do any? And when are we going to do something?
Let me kind of take this a step further. So one thing, and this is something I agree with a lot of citizens on, we have the pilot projects. Pilots are a test. The test projects are giving us data. We are talking about revisions, but what happens after that? When do we get to the permanent builds? Do we make some of these materials permanent builds? Like what happens to the ones that just don't work well? And when are they going to be removed? The citizens want to know how this is going to happen. They see all this going out and they're like, well, they just keep putting more stuff out. They don't really do anything with it.
And maybe we are doing stuff with it, but we're not
correct
communicating it. But
yeah.
Yeah, I think the communication part is probably a big aspect of it, because really, I think citizens will see it, and I think kind of in their head, they expect quick revisions, but really, we're gonna sit there and watch it operate, as long as there's not a blatant safety issue. Yeah.
They don't know what's gonna come next because nobody's told them what's next.
Yeah.
We've told them pilot projects. Okay, then what?
Yeah, and so part of this is, I think, you know, we're good at trying to solve traffic issues. We're not, we're in traffic, not communications. But one of the things next year is that we'll have a dedicated person to help us with this stuff. And David's been good about trying, like, telling us that repeatedly, hey, we gotta get back out. We gotta like close the circle right when it comes to feedback. We'll have a dedicated person for that next year. So, and we're starting to hear that, right? And so like when we celebrate a success internally, our next thought isn't like, great, who do we, you know, let's go tell the public.
Tell everyone about it.
It's like, great, let's go solve the next problem, so.
To piggyback on that, like, I fully understand what Derek's saying, it's like, you see a baller that's been knocked over 50 times and just put back up, but it's never been shifted over 6 inches, right? Like, so like, what is that evaluation process where we go, maybe we need to make a small change to figure out what our permanence is in this project?
Yeah, I think that's a lot of, so Emily, I don't know if you want to go to the next slide, and we can just, if you guys want to, we'll go on the revisions for now. So we have really 7 project locations for revisions that will happen hopefully sometime in March, definitely in the springtime. Two that we've already done are at the traffic circles along Lottie. Similar thing, it's bollards getting hit and put back up. So a lot of the reason for what we did there is we took out, I think almost all of the yellow curbing. So all of the center curbing that, you know, critical thing, you sit there and you think about it, the center pieces aren't doing anything because the traffic circle is there to guide that deflection. Same thing with feedback from surveys about visual clutter. That's a very common thing across all of our pilot projects and feedback we get. So the goal there was, yeah, where can we feasibly remove some stuff where maybe we went a little bit overboard and those particular items aren't providing any benefit. And we're seeing that. And then also we put down green striping along the bike lane through to aid visibility. So we took away some visibility where it didn't matter and we added visibility where it actually does.
Is the green striping considered pilot, or is that considered kind of quick build, or?
I would consider that permanent.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely, I mean, we used real paint.
It's not good, yeah, like,
Sidewalk.
like, once you put that down, you've kind of like committed
Yeah.
to something, so.
And isn't it a thermoplastic that lasts a good about 5 to 10 years on average?
Not what we used there. So what our guys, so what we've done so far, our pilot projects, and this next ones, we've had our internal ops crews do. They've used a waterborne paint to do that. Typically, yeah, when we do a new capital project, that will go in thermoplastic inlaid, ground down, that lasts a long time. Our operations crew will go through and typically refresh those every year for the waterborne.
Are there any pilot projects that the data shows just weren't successful? Significant, meaningful changes in speed or whatever our criteria we're going in?
The common one is where we do kind of pinches, but not enough. So like Lee Gulch at Prince Street in Windermere, we didn't, you know, I think Shane, if I remember correctly, we saw speed reductions at the very beginning and it quickly regressed back to high speeds. So we don't necessarily look at that as it wasn't successful, so we remove it. It's how do we make this successful? And one of the big things that we came to light through our neighborhood traffic calming evaluation process and some of the peer reviews is that really the most effective speed reduction treatments are the vertical elements, so speed cushions. So what we're doing is revising some of the horizontal shift and pinching and adding the speed cushions to re-attack that problem and hopefully see the reductions.
So that's what I see, like you mentioned Prince and Lee Gulch, so that's on the.
2, 3, 5, and 6 are all locations where we've, again, yeah, they're pilots from last year or previous years that are all getting where we've not seen the reduction in speeds that we want to see, and we are installing the rubber speed cushions.
Yeah, and I think there's kind of an important distinction too, is like that engineering judgment on some of this stuff too, with, obviously we want to do projects that, you know, lower speeds, lower volumes, those. But like, especially when it comes to trail crossings, right? Like there might be some situations where we're going to continue things because they're high pedestrian and bicycle areas. But are looking towards the future of like, what is the permanent installation, especially when we go do a mill and overlay or whatever pavement management, and what does that look like?
So I hear you, but I think there's another side of it, which is you can do a false sense of security.
Absolutely.
That people think that, oh, well, this is here, it must make it safe. They did it. They said they were gonna do it to make it safer, and they've left it alone.
Yeah.
And people start, so you can actually create more problems that way, unintended.
Totally. I think that's our worst fear.
Yeah, and that's why we collect data, like, so Lee Gulch Crossing is a good one, right? Like, we'd like to get to the place where we have a standard application for trail crossings, but we wanna make sure that it's actually slowing people down, right? So that's where we're not basing our decision to put an upgraded crossing on the data. We're saying this is a policy decision where we know there's a lot of people crossing, so we wanna slow cars down. But we're using data to say, do we have the right design in place to make sure that it's actually safe? Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah.
How are you measuring data at those?
Go ahead, John.
How are you measuring the data?
Yeah, so we have speed counters, armadillos, which there's so many animal names, yeah.
Different armadillo.
Different armadillos, yeah.
It doesn't look like an armadillo. This is something different.
Yeah, no, it's like a manila colored, like cube.
Strap it.
I think we brought them in before.
Strap them to the posts.
Yeah, strap those cubes, yeah, and they've got a battery on them, there's a little radar, speed and volume detector that we put on there, so we get feedback that when there's tubes, people like slow down, so our data isn't good. I don't know that that's true, but if nobody knows that it's there, when you come back with the data, you can say, hey, look, nobody knew it was here, so it's pretty good data.
We have urban SDK too, right?
Yeah, we do. Usually, we usually use that to detect like overall trends, not like one specific spot, like what's the speed, because we know it's kind of big data, it's not like 100% accurate, yeah.
But I guess speed is a proxy for safety.
Yeah.
And so you're trying to predict hopefully a black swan, which is fatal accidents with speed that is correlated, but not 100%. And so I think there's over reliance on, you don't want to bet the house on speed all the time.
Yeah, and so I would say that it also depends on what, like, not every single request or project is just focused on like reducing speeds, right? Like maybe it's about improving the crossing and visibility, or it's actually, there's way too high a volume of traffic on this local or neighborhood street, and so we want to reduce that. And speed is absolutely something that's, gonna be something that hopefully is reduced as part of the project, but we're really more focused on maybe, like visibility of pedestrians at the crossing. So we're doing daylighting, or I think that it's dependent on the project. And so that's gonna be a little bit challenging as far as you're asking, like, how do we move a project to permanent? Just before this, again, we don't have the like fleshed out beautiful details to show you, but like right before we were here, we were getting more details as to like, what does it look like as to, okay, we've got a project and now we're evaluating it, and yes, it's been in the ground for a year. Now, how do we make it permanent? Realistically, taking a project with these materials, there's a reason why we're using them. They are low cost. And as soon as we make it a permanent project, it's not $100,000 or $200,000. It's possibly $1 million, or more for these locations. And these are just the locations we're doing this year, right? We have 30, we have a lot of locations across the city. And so we have to think strategically, honestly, kind of create a second prioritization process that I've something that's similar to what we have for even selecting the first pilots. Then, okay, now what are the criteria we're trying to meet based on the project goals? And if they're reaching those goals, now we have a list of projects that can move towards permanent based on capacity and funding and how we can move them forward. But we really do have a better idea now of this is something that we have to address. I think that realistically for next year, it's gonna be more on, let's get these pilots out there and get a good package that we can kind of work from then and start selecting based on all of the ones that are out there, what are the high priority ones to move towards permanent.
And if we notice that certain materials, like I know the zebra eggs have been shown to be incredibly resilient, incredibly long lasting. Maybe we can reclassify some of those as like permanent materials that can be installed. So like, say you do like a mill and fill, yeah, you might peel them off at that point, but if you can last 10 years on a street, that is a really good material, especially if you're paying.
Yeah, the safety lane, I think we could have discussions on like, I mean, yes, it's not poured onto the ground concrete, but it's concrete and it is something that can be picked up and moved, but it takes a lot of effort to do that, right? And so I think there's a medium ground there of like, we recognize this isn't poured on the ground concrete with all of the really important like drainage and everything that has to happen, but we can find something that's.
That was the far right concrete ones that are on Church, if I remember correctly. Yeah, I think Boulder paints those too.
It's a wrap that's actually more expensive than the curbing itself, but we do have a donation that we need for ours that we need to finally do. But if we were to use it moving forward, I think that the wrap, I don't know if I would personally say we should shell out for it everywhere, but because it's concrete, it's very well something that.
So I'm gonna call it into this. We're not in engineering standards for this meeting. We're just talking about the idea of how the process should work. And so I think you helped us that very much. Thank you.
And I will say the last thing though, you asked about communications. That is definitely an issue here, right? Like, I think we haven't communicated clearly enough both to you all and the public that there are projects that we've revised. This is just this year's revisions, but some of these locations are a second year or second round of revisions. And so, and last year, projects that we did were revisions to the previous year of projects. And so we just haven't maybe done the best job we could do of communicating that to the public. And so the new pilot projects and Quick Build website, where you can find about all the projects, be sure to update with both, you know, the location, data, before and after data, as well as you know, planned improvements and the construction timeline. So that's a place where people can hopefully one-stop shop, find out about what's going on in their neighborhood. Or
I think that would be a big step. It's not gonna solve the whole problem. People are just not gonna like stuff, but I think that would be huge.
Are you gonna put a notice in the Littleton report and also on the paper that comes out?
Yes.
But I think that even just a yard sign at like where you have the trail crossings, if you did move something just a little bit, having something that says, you know, like when you call and that says the menu options have changed, you know, just something up there that says, hey, just so you know, something has changed. Just be aware if you don't like it, or if you like it, here's a QR code. But that could go a long way too, for every time you do.
As soon as the pilots are installed in the spring, you know, you've hopefully seen them actually out at the protected bike lanes, that we've got those yard signs that link to the survey. And so that's the plan at all those locations as well, where we'll have that. And I think hopefully the yard sign says like, this is a project built to improve safety for all users, right? Like a little explanation, not just like, it's new. This is why we did this change. Do you have anything to say about protected bike lanes, or do you guys feel pretty good on where, or I guess Irving and what Windermere?
Yeah, quick update. I mean, you guys know, seen Bellevue, seen Phillips. Update for the spring is we're gonna add 2 more protected bike lanes, the quick build type thing. So Pennsylvania connecting to Phillips in front of Powell Middle School, all the way up to Mineral, and then Irving between Bellevue and Berry. So they'll both have the Zikla zebra products in different orientations. So Pennsylvania will still have that like angled orientation that Phillips has, but Irving, because we're space constrained there for maintenance equipment to get in there and plow and sweep the bike lanes, we have to do it straight parallel to the line. So
awesome. Thank you guys, really appreciate it.
Anything else? Do we?
No, that's all. It's like,
yeah, I know we went way over your time. I apologize. But yeah, we are hard at work. And as far as communications with all of this stuff, you know, yeah, we plan on, as soon as these changes are live, to get out both social media posts, but also like the Littleton report. Ideally, maybe having a little blurb in the Littleton report every month that is just a little thing that says like, do you have a safety concern or issue in your neighborhood? Like submit a report or submit a concern to the neighborhood traffic calming program. And then that takes them to that website.
When is the estimate, when this website is gonna be live?
I've got a couple more edits that I've realized while showing it to you to make. So I'm gonna hopefully submit it to the team tomorrow for their review. And then we ideally will launch it January 1st if we plan it all right. So
early January. Awesome.
I hope you're not working on January 1st.
no, I won't be. So maybe you can plan it maybe to launch. I
It's a
don't know.
good time to launch.
Early January gets you all the way through like January.
Thank you for that, yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you guys. Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it. All right, can we move on? Everyone okay with moving on? We got a couple of things. The first one is we were asked to need one representative for the Littleton Boulevard sub-area plan. I think everybody raised their hand if they'd like to do it. I'm gonna put out, first of all, I think Michael, Matt and I should pull ourselves out because we are up for renewal in 2026.
Yeah, I was gonna say that.
Not be on the board come 2026 or April 26th. So I'd say the rest of you have some say in it. If you, I'm gonna let the three of you, I think it's, were you interested in it too? I can't remember if you raised your hand. I don't think you did. Okay, I didn't want to leave you out, but I didn't remember you did. I'm gonna ask the three of you to powwow and just between the three of you come up
Was
with
it one or two? Or is it one and an alternate?
one, just one. So if you
We might need an alternate.
oh yeah?
Yeah, but I think we should select an alternate.
All right, well, I'll let you guys battle out however you decide to do it.
Right here or after the meeting?
After the meeting.
I'll see you guys in the parking lot.
Can we do a cage match?
All right, so you guys will figure it out between the three of you and let us know who the primary and the alternate is. And then the other, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I'm sorry,
No, go ahead.
what was the process?
They're gonna come up with, the three of them are gonna let us
We're gonna do
know.
rock, paper, scissors.
Within 24 hours, they're gonna let us know who the primary.
Thank you, I just needed the time frame.
24 hours, right? By tomorrow,
4 hours.
by tomorrow evening, you can let us know? All right.
Right.
If we don't hear from you, we're gonna make up our own mind and it'll be.
And you do live in the region as well, love it.
All right.
I do.
Please include me on that email so I can get back to the project.
So the last thing we had, and I'm hoping everybody is okay going a little more than 8 minutes. We wanted to start narrowing down what we want to put on our 2026 agenda. So I don't know if you have that, Andy, Shane, what we put last time. I have my own. Last time, if you remember, we had a little bit of a brainstorming session. There's like similar notes here. And what we need to do is, I think we talked about this. We need to, 2026, we need to actually accomplish something. We need to have, and in order to do that, we need to focus in on, say, no more than 3 topics, most.
TMP presumably being a big one.
TMP is gonna be one of them. So probably more than that. Yeah. So it doesn't mean we can't have a couple of small little distractions, but I think we need to really focus in on the 2, TMP plus 2 to 3 others we're gonna focus in on. So I'll just read out what I had, Shane. And if
Yeah, I don't think this is the right.
So what I had was, we talked about accelerating sidewalk improvements. We talked about circulator buses, pilot project process and feedback loop, which actually I think we just addressed a little bit. Downtown project recommendations. 20, the whole 20 is plenty, citywide speed limit type study, climate resiliency plan, deeper coordination with other boards, EMP proposal, photo radar enforcement, and public engagement. That's what I had.
And some of those can be smaller topics, like Chief Stevens has taken on kind of the issue of photo radar enforcement. So that could be like one of those smaller things that, if we want to have somebody from PD come and discuss it, we could, so.
Well, it could. I think what I've heard from board members, and if anyone disagrees, raise your hand, is that we'd actually like to focus in on things so we can have formal recommendations to city council.
I think the cameras might need to be a formal recommendation to city council.
If that's the case, we're gonna need to do a little bit of our own research.
Like, to what end? Part of.
I don't think they'll do it. It's citizen employee. No, I think we'd be on board with this in terms of why, or here's what we're saying. I think city council would be apprehensive, and Robert, maybe you could speak to about doing cameras, and funding that. There's two avenues that the city can go now with cameras around school zones, and they can also mount them directly to buses. So I don't think if one of us doesn't say it, they're not gonna pursue it.
I would just say Chief Stevens announced his retirement in April. And so our focus between now and the replacement is going to be at a higher level around kind of what are our priorities for his replacement. And that'll be our law enforcement conversation, I think, through the first half of the year. And so I think, and, you know, Chief Stevens has been our main leader around the conversation. And so I think use of cameras might be one of the council's priorities, but I think it'll be one of the priorities. I think policy change won't happen until the second half of the year, no matter what, unless, you know, there's something.
Well, that's why for next year, we'd have something prepared for the end of the year.
Maybe not just cameras, but maybe go on the safety aspect with cameras providing because there are other
Or maybe just the umbrella of enforcement. You know, we hear that a lot too, that put as many signs as you want, but the city's not actually enforcing parking, driving, and.
Is our primary purpose right now to just narrow down topics?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, so it would be helpful if we could see them to choose between them.
All right, yes.
Are these them?
Did you just put them up there?
Put them up there.
So. We're looking under parking lot items. Is that what we're looking at?
I was reading that as like parking lot items, you know?
Yeah.
I know.
I have a section.
So we've heard a little bit interested in photo radar, or enforcement in general. Climate action plan was something that was thrown out. I don't remember, or climate resiliency plan, I believe is what I wrote down, but either way, climate action, climate resiliency. I know that the environmental stewardship is what it's called. Spent a lot of time on that. Did anyone in this room want to take credit for actually throwing that as one of our ideas? Is there anybody who wants to pick it up and champion, even though no one wants to take credit for it? All of us are here, by the way. So somebody in this room threw this idea out. I didn't just make it up. Just to be clear. Sorry, what?
No, I mean, for all of them, it would, to me, it's keep saying like, to what end?
Yes.
Like, sure, be lovely to learn about the climate resiliency plan, but like,
But what do we do
but
with it?
what?
And how does it relate to like actual recommendations?
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
I agree. So should we move on from that one since nobody wants to take credit for it? Pilot project update, I feel like we just sort of accomplished some of that. I'm not sure what else we would do on that.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I would remove that.
The update is, there's the reason there's been a delay is that NICLA, you know, is we're getting it straight from there and they are from Spain. And so it's just different working with an international
Well,
supplier. And so we've had some like technical legal requirements and stuff that we've been having to work through, but getting that worked through.
I think you're good. We already grilled you enough.
Are you guys going to want a pilot project update sometime next year? I mean, I think it'd be interesting to know, or like where, if the timeline you kind of shared about perhaps evaluation of moving some to recommend for permanence, I think that would be the part.
And part of my thinking is that the way we structure our meetings for the coming year would be, we have these 2 or 3 main objectives that the bulk of the meeting is dedicated to that for the 2 to 3 or 4 months. But we could still have a 15 to 20 minute time slot for some sort of an update. So it might 1 month it might be the pilot project update, 1 month it might be the CIP update. It could be, something else that you looked at and worked on.
We did pilot project updates at a higher frequency for a shorter amount of time in a week meeting. Would that prevent us from asking way too many questions and turning it into an hour-and-a-half update or?
No.
We need to keep it tighter. Yeah. All right, so moving on. Next thing, what do we have up there is the next one? Project Downtown recommended projects.
Is that what you had on your list?
I had downtown project recommendations, so pretty darn close. I don't remember exactly what this was. Anybody?
I think it was around transportation because, from the feedback and everything, there's a ton of questions of like, does Prince going north have a bike lane? Does, there's a whole bunch of things around that. So how that.
It's more of like a recommendation.
Yeah, actually, the council is going to be the project downtown budget for Alamo and Main Street was $60 million. We're going to spend 30. And so you guys taking an opportunity to say what we should prioritize for that 30 is something that I think would be really valuable.
Yeah, so they're gonna have the first draft of the plans here pretty quick, right? They've gone through their first review and gotten feedback and they're gonna start drawing
Well,
pictures.
my expectation is sometime in the next couple of months, I'm going to be participating in that decision-making process.
So we have the final vision plan, right, that has 5 recommended projects that does show like what is recommended on Prince, which is a behind the curb cycle track plus extended sidewalk. So there's that, it's at a conceptual level with Prince, Alamo, Maine, Littles Creek, and
This year, we're focused on Main Street. We are
Yes.
working on Main Street. We got to prioritize as a council what we do on Main Street.
yes, and so that design contract, I'm on the review committee, we're reviewing the submitted proposals right now, so we'll get a consultant, a designer under contract Q1 of next year. And I believe there will be some engagement opportunities, but I will circle back with Adrian and ask what that looks like for you all and timing.
Be important that we're involved in that.
Yeah, because it's.
To Robert's point, that is specifically for design of Main Street. And so it's taking what was in the vision plan and what can we actually build with our allocated budget.
Could we use it as kind of like a test of, because we're gonna, when the TMP moves and starts going through the same process, we want to go through an effective process of providing citizen feedback and board recommendation on the actual project itself. So could we get that formatted in something where that feedback could be effective or built into our actual recommendations to council?
I would, the council owns the decision process for Main Street. You own the decision process for the TMP. So I'm not confident you have control over the Main Street process in a way that would be.
Then how could
you just outlined?
Effective at helping?
Well,
we make recommendations. We say,
Yeah.
we think these are the priorities. If you only have $30 million to spend,
Yeah.
we think these 3, 4, 5, whatever the number is, should be the priorities for spending the money.
So my question is,
The lens of the
what's
team.
best way to do that?
Yeah, I need to talk with Adrian, the project manager, and see what she's thinking and I can provide that feedback to you all.
Well, that could be just part of our letter to council, right, as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think, I don't have the scope of work off the top of mind, but I believe there is some sort of stakeholder public engagement. Cause I think Kelly was the rep for the stakeholder working group during the vision planning process. If at minimum, we can always do something internally where we facilitate that and then provide that to the project team and to council.
Yeah, and just know that might be an off cycle. Just if stuff is moving as fast as Robert is indicating. But we can discuss
Nothing's
that.
moved fast yet, so.
Yeah, well, I mean, the full design process will take, I think council would like it to take 9 months. I think realistically it'll take at least a year, but yeah, at the beginning, there will be some decisions to make. But that contract, we are just now reviewing proposals. We'll still have to go through a interview process, likely contracting, and so that's not going to start until spring at the earliest, I would.
So that would be a latter half of the year type project. All right, let's move on. We gotta work through it and then we gotta figure out which ones we're gonna do. So next one up there is 20 is plenty, speed limit study. This is thing, we've just been talking about this for years, it feels like. You know, and I feel like, I think what we talked about here is the idea that we could do a little bit of research on it, look at what other cities implement, what kind of lessons we learned, and then make a recommendation to council one way or the other. Like, it's worth pursuing and going into. There's a lot of great benefits, or stop talking about it. This is, yeah.
Kind of have to do a mini version of that right now to determine its priority amongst the other ones, right? To see if it even gets focused.
Yeah, but this is what we would do if
Yeah.
that's what the project would be.
And I point out that we will likely engage this in the TMP.
I was gonna say, it's part of the TMP, it's just a sub discussion within the TMP.
So you put that as a sub bullet to the TMP. Yeah, I would say, like, I don't think people really look at streets, speed limit signs. I think they just feel the road.
Like if we're looking at 20 is
Doesn't
plenty,
even
maybe
matter.
enforcement, it's almost complementary to that topic.
Everything sort of goes off everything else, right?
Yeah.
One big interconnected world we live in. What was the next thing we had up there? TMP update?
Sidewalk fees.
Sidewalk fees. So, well, and it was more than sidewalk fees, right? What we talked about is this idea of just accelerating the sidewalk improvements. Getting the $7 million a year, whatever it was, that not funded 2026 through 2030.
I think that's a big one. I think almost all neighborhoods this touches, and we're all like, why does Littleton suck so bad in terms of sidewalks? So I feel like there'd be a lot of citizen support behind
So
it.
I do not disagree with the idea that we need to work on our sidewalks. 100% agree. I'm gonna channel Kelly. To what end? What are we gonna come back with? We should do this.
The recommendation, the funding.
So this would be a funding conversation more than anything. Review of sidewalks.
I'm curious, Robert, as part of council's discussion around debt financing, bonding, people, if it's just focused on sidewalks or if it's a broader discussion around transportation funding and the timing that would help council if the board was to make recommendations.
So we've kind of going back to what Lori said, we've got one funding mechanism that's kind of quiet and internal that we're using for stormwater, which is this either fee-based debt or these revolving loan funds. And we've got this semi-quiet thing, which is certificates of participation, which we're using for the service center, which that fits perfectly with certificates of participation because it's something that would be hard to sell as a GO bond. Downtown, I think, probably would fit better as a GO bond, but we were just so tired of waiting on it that we're just like, screw it, we're gonna do that. But the next conversation is gonna be what can we get citizens to vote on? And for a GO bond. And my priority, just to totally play my cards, is Kettering Lake. Just, you guys all know, that's my top priority.
It's the people that vote you in.
Yeah,
Right there.
well.
Kettering Lake in your district?
Huh? It's in my backyard.
For the kitchen sink, right?
I feel like I am not being
Sly.
sly about it. I'm owning what I am doing. So the conversation, I know I talk a lot, but the point is that if you can make the case that this is something that we can put into a package for a GO bond that the community will support, and it has to be things that are sexy, quite frankly.
I think the sidewalks could be good for citizens.
So
I would prioritize the sidewalks.
Moving on,
those
things
are
you
long
missed that I had. One was deeper coordination with other boards. I don't feel like that's a project so much as, I don't know, like.
So we have partner meetings up here.
And there's certainly nothing there that, like, what do we do with, like, I'm gonna keep channeling you, to what end? So we do that.
No, it feels like is it a part of start working on this TMP update? Like, we want to socialize, we want to get input from public boards, our public, like, is that also a space where we might start sharing our thoughts on other boards? And we are imagining as part of the TMP process, there would be a stakeholder working group that identified boards and commissions would have a representative on. But to that point, maybe there's some education opportunities in advance of that so that whoever that rep is kind of comes in with what you guys, that base level knowledge of what you all have been talking about.
I think there are some improvements that could be made too, where collaboration with other boards might make it more compelling or make it more likely. Like for instance, light timing for exhaust reduction, for the roadways and like the sustainability, the sustainability group could, so there's options like that, but how does it compare to other priorities?
And one thing I will say is a value that I don't really pick up on is what I would call presence. Having visibility and having people know this is an avenue where transportation topics can be effectively addressed has a value in its own.
So the downtown project, so obviously LDDA, we should be talking to them.
All right. Well, so now I'm starting to get into matrices in my head. So, because the next thing I had here was public engagement, right? So like that falls under public engagement, right? But it also falls under TMP. So that's sort of like another topic, right? And then we talked about, yes. So we need to think a little bit about that one. But I'm going to force us to have no more than 3 that we walk out of here with. The last thing I had on here was circulator bus. I know that's Connie left. Oh, she can't. It's the idea of circulator bus. It is definable. It is something we could try. We could come in. We could make a recommendation one way or the other.
I would prioritize that.
I was, do we want to focus on just a circulator? Do we want to look at kind of something like a Littleton-led transit option?
Yeah, I think that's the good context, and then specific recommendation might come out of that.
Littleton transit solution.
Well, I hear you, and this is where I struggle with.
Sorry. We are gonna be asked to decide, I think sometime the council's gonna be asked to decide in sometime in the next 6 months of whether we want to participate in the Front Range rail system and whether we want the rail station to be a mineral or we want it to be a downtown.
That's a huge question.
And that's question.
That's a huge thing.
That'll shape the next 200 years.
And that question, it's a kind of pressure. There's a new executive director for the Front Range Rail, and we've got this kind of new pressure to decide that quickly. I don't know what quickly means, but just that's a transportation related issue that's going to be talked about by the council a lot, I think, very quickly.
Have something put on sooner about the options and what each one actually means.
Well, that's part of, yes, let's stick to, the concept is there. And I think if you truly think that that's gonna be asked of us in the next 12 months.
I don't know. I think you need to make sure you get asked, is what I'm suggesting.
In the next 6 monons.
No, I'm saying you, like we, the city.
Oh, I think we're gonna be asked to do that in the next 6 months. 6 months would be long. It may be less.
Well, means that
High priority then.
becomes a high priority.
Sorry.
TMP in that.
You're welcome.
So I don't know what you guys think. I feel like TMP is gonna be an ongoing process. I don't know that we're gonna have, like, it's not a project, right? It's like, for us, we're gonna be asked to weigh in on an ongoing basis, but it's not really, other than what
You mean like we're not driving it?
I don't see that we're driving it. Are we?
Well,
We
we
allowed
spent
to drive?
this year, like, coming up with recommendations. and
Yeah.
everything. So we've dedicated a ton of time to that. I don't know how much more tweaking or work we got.
The only thing I had in here was that we might want to get involved in the proposal process.
Yeah, I agree with
First part of the year.
So, yeah. Sorry, I'll leave that. So we just need to be careful on kind of how you guys are involved in the proposal process. So our plan in January is to talk about the scope, we came up with a scope, got some feedback and made some revisions. And so our plan is to talk about that high level, but we just kind of need to be careful, like from a, just a standpoint that this is a public meeting and things like that. So it's my understanding, at least, is that it's pretty uncommon to have like boards or someone like that, like participate in like the actual evaluation process. So
That should be.
So I'm gonna put out there that, as Russell before, the size of the projects we take on. I think it is, in a perfect world, we talk about I'll pick on the transit for a second, right, and the security. In a perfect world, we would take everything up to this like high level concept. Do we want to do this at a high level and really flesh that out? But do we have the time to actually go and research what Littleton should be doing from a transit perspective and coming up with recommendations to give to city council on that? Or do we have just the time to say like, we should do a circulator bus? We looked at so-and-so and they have it and then, here's roughly what the budget would be. And we think it's something city council should pursue.
So we are participating in the Arapahoe County Transit Micromobility Study. And so I think that is a really great avenue to have that discussion. We are just at the beginning. I know they're going to launch the website in January. There's going to be some pop-up events in February. So I think that is a great way they've done a whole market analysis and there'll be recommendations. That could be something that gives you some robust data that you can have this conversation on.
I appreciate that. I may have picked the wrong example. I was just trying to give an example. of
Yes,
How
sorry,
big of the scope are we willing to take on?
Maybe we should categorize these like he does, like urgent and important and not urgent, or urgent and not important, like because I kind of see some of these that are, it sounds like this front range rail might need a recommendation.
Urgent and important. So I feel like that one, does anyone disagree that just needs to be one of the ones?
Yeah.
Okay. So make that.
And I think important but not urgent is our Littleton transit solution. That's needs to be a well thought out recommendation to council, and I think there needs to be funding, and it's a big project.
I think probably the rest of them all end up being important, not urgent. Right, so that really, I appreciate you trying to come up with scoring methodology.
All right.
It helps us.
All right, well, which ones can we kick out?
I mean, like, I guess I'll just, like, is there anyone who wants to sort of die on the hill, right? Like, I mean, we've got,
I would say photo radar camera enforcement, that could be a sub bullet of the TMP, just like 20 is plenty. Like just how do we enforce,
but we still need to make it a project, whether you make it a sub bullet or not, like, we need to dedicate time to it.
And when we get the new police chief, that might be a great way to introduce him to us and really bring that topic up.
Yeah, I would deprioritize that one personally.
Photo radar? Yeah. And see, because it's possible that the new police chief just comes in and has all sorts of great ideas anyways.
No, I think the way to engage in that conversation, and there'll be public outreach around that, is what are our priorities for the new chief? And so if photo radar or, increased traffic enforcement is a priority, there's going to be public engagement around there where I'm hoping you guys will be asked for your priority around this. Or you guys will participate somebody will participate in a panel. Because there'll be, and then, whoever, there'll be interviews, but that's. But question will kind of be, what do we want? You may get what do we want out of the new chief? So.
And I think we should classify all the perpetual things like public engagement, the DMP, the Littleton downtown is kind of like important, but like mid-grade because we're always going to be working on them, but there's going to be time in between for more critical items.
I think in order to try to move things forward, I'm going to throw a straw man out and let people beat it up. I'm going to suggest that we say front range rail. We should have one transit option. And unfortunately, like that's the transit option. I really would like to explore more about transit, but it sounds like there's more stuff going on with Arapahoe County. So maybe that's a 2027 project. When that's all done. So
Yeah, I'll keep you updated on the schedule.
great. Front range rail, I'm going to suggest downtown project recommendations in the timeliness and sidewalk improvement.
I think those are good, right?
I think transit's more important. 2027. There's stuff going on. We should be involved in the second half of the year.
I guess what I'm saying is front range rail is transit. Like that is also.
Yeah, but that's not a Littleton transit solution. That's just another part of the problem that we currently have, which is we just have a train that drives through our city and our city has no way to get to that train. And no way to get to the grocery store and no way to get to.
Okay, so which of my three would you throw out then? To replace it with the transit?
So there's 12.
I was about to say, I think there might be opportunity for both.
Yeah. There's 12 meetings.
Yeah, that's.
Another 2 hours each. I feel like we could squeeze in 4 topics.
But I feel like the Littleton, the Front Range Rail is probably a meeting and not a year-long project, because it's gonna be something that they want right away. The Littleton Transit solution is gonna be something that's, how do we fund this? What does it
Isn't that
look
what we
like?
are?
Right, right.
We're trying to figure out the transit solution.
Yeah, and so,
Sounds cliche, but let's wrap them up into a mass transit discussion because there will be multiple aspects and we have 2 great aspects to put under one umbrella.
yeah.
Yeah. And it's kind of just Littleton Transit, like mass transit.
Mass transit is.
But we're really far.
Yeah, but we can't throw out the Littleton,
We're at
we can't throw out the
Yeah.
local transit.
Yeah, no, it's time to wrap this up. So does anyone have any feedback or pushback? So it sounds like we're gonna do transit, do downtown, and we're gonna do
Sidewalks.
sidewalks.
Those are potentially the most time sensitive too.
All right. I think, any other updates from staff that we?
No.
Okay.
Schedule. The
TMP is out.
The TMP was not negotiable.
Okay.
Yeah, agreed.
Can I give a quick update?
Yes, that'd be awesome.
So I am your representative. I was reappointed. That was very nice. I think all the council members are gonna go to their meetings, and I'm also going to be the Dr. representative, so I'm hopefully gonna expand
Excellent.
transportation portfolio.
Great.
And
Thank you for
then-
serving on that.
Oh, I'm excited about it. I'm not the mayor.
Quick staff updates. We presented to the project governance committee for the TMP, so that process is moving forward. We will be going to council March 10th to talk both about the TMP, our report on progress, and safer streets. I think that's it.
Yeah, so as far as kind of expected timeline, we're probably looking at kickoff August, September, just with the reviews. So long story short, council will have to come through and kind of review, they'll review the scope in March, but then review the contract before we can kind of sign and move forward. So that's some time in there. So.
Like the solicitation process, interview process, all of that. So.
Anyone else? Anything else?
And then reminder of the 3 board members that are up.
Yes.
So you should be getting an email in January to reapply.
If you don't get confirmation, reach out to Colleen.
And the most important thing that you can do during your interview is tell us about what you would like done differently with the relationship, what went well with the council and your relationship with the council. Because I know it's a pain in the ass to have to interview, but we do absolutely value you guys. You've done it, what worked well, what didn't work well.
With that, everyone have a
And
happy
then there's some
holidays and Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.
See you next year.
And thank you all for all of your hard work this year. We really appreciate it.
Totally out of my lane.
Yeah.
About part of.
Say the A word.